CBS Sports HQ, presented by Progressive Insurance.
Hello, everyone. I'm Adam Zucker. A reminder that number 9 Florida and number 7 Georgia is coming up at 3:30. Then in primetime, number 3 Notre Dame battles Navy. Turning now to an epic night in Los Angeles. Game 3 of the World Series lasting well into the morning. The Dodgers winning 3-2 on an 18th inning Max Muncy walk-off home run, ending the longest game in postseason history at 7 hours and 20 minutes. Boston now leads 2-1. Last night in college football, Utah's Zach Moss ran for 211 yards and found the end zone 3 times. As the Utes roll to a 41-10 win over UCLA, Utah now sits atop the Pac-12 South. And Boston College welcomed the return of A.J. Dillon while beating Miami 27-14. The preseason Heisman hopeful went for 149 yards, including his third-quarter touchdown that broke the game open for the Eagles. Other scores from college football. Minnesota got their first Big Ten Conference win of the year over Indiana. Wyoming ended its 4-game losing streak at Colorado State. And Louisiana Tech's bowl eligible for a 5th straight year. For 24/7 news and highlights, visit CBSSportsHQ.com.
The clock is ticking on the SEC. The next 2 weeks could give definition to or create turmoil in a season of perfection and parity. In the West, idle number 1 Alabama seems head and shoulders above all, but the Tide still has days to come with number 4 LSU and bitter rival Auburn. In fact, Gus Malzahn is with us in studio today wearing his spoiler hat. But we'll start by focusing on the logjam in the East between Georgia, Florida, and Kentucky. The Gators and Dogs go at it in Jacksonville today, trying to gain an edge to the SEC championship. Buckle up. The drive to Atlanta, presented by Mercedes-Benz, has begun.
Everyone, I'm Adam Zucker. Welcome to the Drive to Atlanta, presented by Mercedes-Benz. In a little over an hour from now, it's a crucial top 10 SEC East showdown when number 9 Florida takes on number 7 Georgia in Jacksonville. Then in prime time, number 3 Notre Dame and Navy continue their annual rivalry out west in San Diego. Auburn head coach Gus Malzahn will join us live here in studio in a couple of moments. It is a great day here of football on CBS Sports. For the first time in 6 years, both Florida and Georgia come into this contest ranked in the top 10. And despite this being an A-rated game, it could come down to being a D-rated story, as in defense. And joining me are Brian Jones and 3-time SEC Coach of the Year, Houston Nutt, from across the hall at CBS Sports Network. Now, it's not Houston's first time on this show. This was.
We can move a mountain together, can't we? All we got to do is hit that line, keep on going. Move that ball right down the field. Do it, chill, round, never fear, round. Arkansas will never yield.
Wow.
Hit that line, Coach.
Man, you surprised me right there now.
Welcome back, buddy.
Nothing like a celebrated locker room.
Yeah, Gus Malzahn's going to talk about that with us in a few minutes. Now, Houston's here for Rick, who's going to be calling the second game of our doubleheader, Notre Dame and Navy. But back to the Gators and the Dogs here. This one could be decided on the defensive side of the ball here, Coach.
No question about it. Florida, 5 straight wins, 18 takeaways, 9 forced fumbles, 11 fumble recoveries, and 7 interceptions. These guys are getting after it on defense and feeling good going into the bye week. But Georgia, not feeling as good after they got off to a 6-0 start, but you can bet this. They're going to be well prepared, ready to go, and trying to run the football.
Well, they're going to want to run the football, and they're going to want to stop the run because they were crash dummies to LSU a couple weeks ago, giving up 275 on the ground. This is not the Georgia defense that they had a year ago, so they're hoping they can pick up the pieces. But what happened at LSU didn't happen in a vacuum. We've seen this coming, whether it was Vanderbilt, whether it was Missouri. This defense has been allowing many more rush yards than they have in the past, so they definitely have to have shored that up during this bye week.
And the team that rushes for the most yards has won the last 12 meetings, and on offense, the Bulldogs will have to do something that they failed to do in that loss to LSU. Get that ground game going, take some of the pressure off of Jake Fromm.
You're exactly right. Elijah Holyfield, DeAndre Swift, these guys need that offensive line to come off, fire up, and don't forget, guys, you have to take care of the most important thing, because these two guys now, once this offensive line starts doing what they're supposed to do, now it becomes this. And Florida's been doing too good a job of taking. No.
You got it tight?
Hey, Eagle Claw.
Eagle claw.
Forearm. Rib cage. 3 points of pressure, high and tight. I'm not letting you have it, defense.
That's what Dan Mullins is telling his quarterback, Felipe Franks, take care of the rock. And for the most part, he's done that this season. 15 touchdowns, and he only had 9 a season ago. They're getting the ball out of his hands fairly quickly. You saw him last week or 2 weeks ago versus Vanderbilt. The most yards he's thrown for this season, 284, 2 touches, 1 interception in that ball game. He's going to be the key. I think he has to have a breakout game in this one, and also that running game. You talk about Georgia running the rock. Well, they do a little running down there in the swamp as well. How about Scarlett and P. Ryan, Coach?
I love these two backs. They're so physical. They're tough. They're about 5'10", 5'9", right in there, but they're 215, 227, and they will break arm tackles. You got to wrap it up.
Already dropped the ball.
No. Ball's right here.
All right.
Eagle claw.
Got to hold that the whole show, by the way.
That's right. Because I'm coming after you.
Let's get to SEC action already underway. 2 teams in search of their first conference win. Vanderbilt visiting one of Houston's former teams. Both looking for their first conference win here.
How about Chase Hayden right here? Well blocked right here. He outruns the entire Vanderbilt secondary, gets in the end zone, big play.
There was nobody there, Coach.
That's a good job, though.
Kyle Shermer right back.
How about Kyle Shermer comes right back? This is a great catch. Concentrated effort right here by Jared Pinkney. Does a good job of breaking a tackle and getting the end zone.
And that gives Vanderbilt the lead, and they still have it. Again, both going for their first conference wins of the year. Start of the 4th quarter right now, and the Commodores on top, 24-17. In action still to come, number 12 Kentucky takes on Missouri. The Wildcats trying to keep pace in the East with the winner of Florida, Georgia. Number 16 Texas A&M is going to battle Miss State tonight in Starkville. The Aggies have now won 3 straight since losing to Bama. All right, more highlights from around the country right now. Number 2 Clemson going for a 4th straight win over FSU, and Trevor Lawrence heard about VJ's upset prediction.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
No.
Florida State has no idea how to tackle. Amari Rogers, 58 yards later, he's in the zone. Come on, Florida State, what are you doing?
Trevor Lawrence, early 3rd quarter, already at 246 yards, 3 touchdowns, coming off career highs last week. 38-0 right now. Meanwhile, Northwestern and Wisconsin looking to stay atop the Big Ten West Coast.
How about this? Kyrick McGowan right here. Well-protected pocket, beautiful throw, perfect 24-yard touchdown pass from Clayton Thorson. Good job right there.
Thorson's doing it all. He's also got 2 touchdowns on the ground and a 14-point lead right now for Northwestern. Purdue, they came in hot. They've won 4 straight. They're scoring like crazy. A lot of field goals right now. They just got another one. They're down by 3 against Sparty with that great rushing defense. Iowa State, this one's been back and forth. Brock Purdy with some big passes. David Montgomery's landed in the end zone twice, and the Cyclones have a 7-point lead on Texas Tech. Virginia trying to punch a bowl ticket today. Bryce Perkins, 3 total touchdowns and a 10-point lead on North Carolina. And in the ACC as well, Wake Forest and Louisville both looking for their first conference wins. Louisville's defense been non-existent. Wake Forest rocketed. Nebraska going to get win number 2, it looks like, I think. And over on CBS Sports Network, a triple header of college football action. Right now, it's Army in Eastern Michigan, followed by Cincinnati and SMU, and capped when Boise State visits Air Force. Gus Malzahn joining us in studio next. We're going to talk about Auburn football, the state of the SEC, as well as the drive to Atlanta continues. The Drive to Atlanta, presented by Mercedes-Benz, is sponsored by Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing. Sonic, this is how you Sonic. And by Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
I'm just going to tell you, very few teams could have went through that adversity that we did and be here in this moment. And you'll carry that for the rest of your life. And I mean it. We're so proud of you guys, all right?
Yeah! That was not Gus Malzahn after winning the SEC championship game or beating Alabama. That was Gus Malzahn last Saturday after beating Ole Miss and getting back in the win column. And this is Gus Malzahn here with us today. We have the head coach of Auburn football with us. Gus, great to see you.
Glad to be here.
Got a reunion with Houston from the old Arkansas days as well. Yeah. You're smiling like you were in that clip right there.
Yeah.
What'd you figure out about your team, about your offense, especially from last week?
Well, we were able to run the football effectively. And that was a big win for us. You know, we had a tough 2-week stretch right there and got a win coming into the off week. And, you know, I think we're in a good spot to finish this thing.
Gus, let's go back the week prior to Ole Miss. Yeah. And we all been through some adversity. Noise outside noise gets loud. How did you handle that week going into that game?
Yeah, you just, stay isolated. And, it's all about the people in that building. And we knew that, if we just got through this little bump in the road, we had a chance to finish this thing the right way. And, we couldn't have played a better game at the time, and beat Ole Miss. And now we got an off week. And like I said, I think we're set up now.
Coach, you had us all fired up watching that last weekend after that Ole Miss win. I thought you should have kept that one in your pocket. You got some bigger ones to come, but you do you, and your team will do them. Let me ask you about targeting. What modifications do you think need to be made to get everyone more in sync with this rule?
Yeah, first of all, I think it's a good rule from the standpoint of player safety. That's where it all starts. But I think everybody's seeing now that, we need to tweak some things. I think there's different levels and all that. And it's a real challenge to coach, too. You want to make sure that they stay off the quarterback's head or somebody's head. You want to make sure you don't leave your feet and all that. But there's a little bit of gray area that I think we just need to all look at and, move forward in a positive way.
I have an awesome respect for Steve Shaw, Rogers Redding. Yeah. These guys do a great job. And like you said, it's safety first. But I got some brothers that coach college basketball. And one of the things I like is the flagrant 1, the flagrant 2. And when I saw Devin White, we talked about it, BJ. It wasn't a malicious hit. He didn't use his crown head and launch. I just hate seeing a guy like that not being able to play in the biggest game the following week. So I'm hoping, like you mentioned, maybe a little tweak and really look at that.
Yeah. In terms of different levels of targeting.
Yes, right. Yes.
What do you think about that?
Well, I think that each week, just from a coach's standpoint, there's a little bit of gray area. Obviously, there's different levels, I think. Obviously, the common sense you can see, yeah, that's targeting. Or, is that going to be overturned or not? And I just think that's something that the office will look at and the Rules Committee will look at. And I think that'll be a good thing moving forward. But I'm going to say this again. It's a good rule from the player safety standpoint because I think you've seen the game change in a positive way the last couple of years. So now I think you just be looking for something.
And one of the things that we do see will be an offensive player kind of anticipating a tackle and going lower, and the defensive player ends up with a target. How do you coach like your strong? How do you coach your safeties around that?
Yeah, I think that's the challenge. You just try to have some black and white rules as far as, hey man, stay off the guy's head. Don't project yourself, but it's a challenge. I mean, I think every coach around the country is dealing with that, exactly, how to coach that.
You have had to deal with this new transfer rule. How much of a challenge has that been, this new landscape which allows players more freedom to move around?
It's a new day in college football from that standpoint. We lost one of our receivers, lost a tight end, and I think you'll see strategically a lot of coaches save some scholarships towards the end, just for the 5th year, the grad transfer and all that. But it's a new day. And, I think anytime you go through it the first time, you learn. And but I think you'll see more of it in the future.
Yeah, and you could benefit from it as well. I want to ask about one guy. He's become one of my favorite players because I love Spaceballs. But Anthony Schwartz, this guy, how fast is this guy? He's already challenged Tyreek Hill to a race this offseason, and Tyreek Hill has accepted it, the Chiefs speedster. But he's blazing.
Yeah, he's got real speed. A lot of guys are fast, but guys that carry their speed with pads, he does that. And he does something every day in practice, and you kind of go, wow. And he's got a chance to be a big-time player, and he's off to a great start his freshman year.
All right. Well, good luck using him the rest of the way. Gus is going to be hanging out with us all day here, watching games, especially that A&M game later on. When we come back, Gary and Brad are going to join us to talk about all things SEC as the drive to Atlanta continues. And here's where the drive currently stands. Georgia, Florida, and Kentucky are all tied at 4-1 atop the East Division. Kentucky has a head-to-head tiebreaker over the Gators, remember? And the Wildcats host the Bulldogs next Saturday. While in the West, idle #1 Alabama has an air of invincibility to them, but the Tide travel to #4 LSU next Saturday and have to play this Auburn gentleman's team on November 24th. That would be Gus Malzahn, who's here. We welcome you back to the Drive to Atlanta, presented by Mercedes-Benz. We're going to bring in Gary Danielson and Brad Nessler now. We're going to be calling today's Florida-Georgia game. The next 2 weeks are going to answer a lot of questions about the SEC this year, guys, or create complete chaos. But how great is it that this rivalry, Florida-Georgia, is going to have so much to say about that?
Yeah, you know, first of all, Zook, I don't know what you guys are putting in the coffee up there because Gus never smiles that much when we.
What's going on?
I have no idea. And
who is that guy?
Yeah, who is that guy?
It's awful.
And Gary's already lost his jacket. He shipped it to Baton Rouge for next week's game. So this is the way we're going to handle it. Yeah, we're going to shake it out in the next 2 weeks on both sides, guys. And it starts today. Two teams that can't even agree on how many times they played this game. 97th edition. If you talk to Georgia, if you talk to Florida, they say it's a 96th. They skipped that game in Macon in 1904. I don't think it makes any difference. Last year it was over before everybody found their seats.
Yeah, last year was a mess. Remember, McElwain was going through with the coaching rumors and everything. And I don't, you know, Florida just did not come to play in that game. I think, interestingly, you know, the turnaround has been great for Dan Mullen. He's done a great job with his team. But I wonder if last year's team kind of heard all the outside noise and didn't play as well as the talent on that team because they're a much better version this year.
Especially the defense. Those guys, front four that they've got, pin their ears back, and they make things kind of rough for Jake Fromm probably today if he has the same kind of game as he had 2 weeks ago. Gus had the right recipe, though, I think, guys, for beating Georgia a year ago. You hold Nick Chubb to 27 yards, and you hold Jake Fromm under 50% passing. That's kind of how you do it, Coach, right?
Yeah, there's no doubt. That's easier said than done, I'll tell you that.
All right, guys, since Gary's Jack has already made the trip back to Baton Rouge, let's go there. How do you see this SEC West shaking out next week?
Well, you know, Brian, I think both games, and really, you know, it's going to be the center of attention of all of college football. You know, after the Ohio State loss, the center of attention is this game and next week with Alabama against LSU. And everybody, of course, it's going to come. You have to run the ball. You have to stay balanced. But I really believe in both games, it's going to be the four quarterbacks that determine it. And that means coaching to make your quarterback succeed. How can the play calling keep the quarterbacks from having those third and lawns and make those tough throws? It's going to be really a dance of Dan Mullen, Chaney, Alabama doing it, and LSU to keep their quarterback successful. I think will be the key to both games.
And I think next week when we look ahead to that game, the problem you have, whether you're LSU and you're ranked 4th, or if Notre Dame slips tonight, they could be 3rd. It's going to be a big ranking, number 1 against number 4, if nothing else. But you've got to score 40 points or 45 to beat Alabama. Who can do that?
Yeah.
That's right.
I don't know. Maybe Auburn can. We got the Iron Bowl down the road.
Exactly. You got to keep Alabama under 50 if that's the case, too. Between now and that Bama-LSU game, guys, we're going to have our first college football playoff committee rankings. Do you think they'll be drastically different from what we see right now?
I don't think so. Do you?
And it's really too early. There's a number of teams now. I know they come out, and it's good publicity, and probably it's good for college football to talk about it. But Auburn showed last year that if you just keep going forward, win the games at the end of the year. Remember, Auburn had those home games and knock off Alabama, and they knock off Georgia. They had a chance to control their own destiny. That's what I think teams should be doing, is looking at what destiny they control and not worry about the Tuesday night show.
Exactly. I agree.
Gary, got a question for you. Is anyone going to run the Wildcat jump pass today and +5 going in?
There's that. Well, I would try it if they called it. I think I could do that 4-yard pass if I had to do it. But
no, I got a real question for you. How much do you think Justin Fields will play today? I know Georgia had an off week, and anytime you have an off week, you got a chance to really sit back and get a good plan moving forward.
Gus, I think you kind of nailed it, and it's really interesting from the Georgia fan base. They're looking around college football, and Ness and I were talking about this, and look what's happened. Alabama changes quarterbacks, they win a national championship. Notre Dame switches quarterbacks, they're in the hunt. Clemson switches quarterbacks with a 5-star guy, they're in the hunt. Now, if you're the Georgia fan base, you're going, we love old Jakey, but we got a 5-star guy here, you know, so that's what you deal with when you play quarterback, and that's what you coaches have to deal with.
And trust me, living in Georgia, I know what the fans are thinking in that. If you're going to play Justin Fields, let him have a whole series. Let him throw the football. Don't put him in there for a zone read, run 3 yards the wrong way, and then hand off the next time. Either let him play or leave him on the sideline and let it be Jake's deal.
Good analysis.
There you go, guys. So far, what we've seen from him is those plays, and otherwise it's been practice stuff. Good stuff as always. Brad and Gary, we'll see you in a few minutes. All right, we are going to get you set for Halloween with a tasty trip down memory lane when the drive to Atlanta, presented by Mercedes-Benz, rolls on from Studio 43 in New York City. Wednesday is Halloween, and we learned that the trick to turning physically imposing college football players and their coaches back into rambunctious little kids is to simply toss in some treats.
My favorite personal costume was a Batman costume.
I was a soccer ball. Like, not like a T-shirt with a thing. No, a giant plaster soccer ball.
I was the Old Spice guy. You ever seen the Old Spice guy and his collared shirt around him, sitting on the horse?
I had a Justin Bieber costume, kind of the height of Justin Bieber, which is probably more recently than it should have been.
I was a football player about 6 times as a kid growing up.
Me personally, I don't wear costumes because it's like I'm a big guy, so I'm gonna look goofy. I'm gonna look silly. I'm just gonna look goofy. Like I should not be wearing that.
Spider-Man. Spider-Man's my favorite costume. It's my favorite character.
I was always Freddy the Freeloader because it was easy, fast to get ready.
The Hamburglar is my favorite.
Cloudy with a chance of rain, and I was wearing a blue sweatsuit, and we put cotton balls on me as clouds, and I was walking around squirting people with the squirt gun.
I don't know where you're going with all this.
Favorite memory from Halloween would have probably been eating as much candy as possible when I was a kid.
I have to say my favorite candy is Nerds Ropes.
It's the Nerds Rope. Oh my goodness, that's my phone. You know, a lot of people don't like it, but I like candy corn. I don't know why people don't like it, but I like it.
Reese's. Just something about that peanut butter and chocolate.
Honestly, Whoppers. I feel like they're very underrated. Very underrated candy. Twix. I don't know what it is about Twix because whenever you do the little Halloween deal, it's always a little twin size, the small ones. And I kind of feel like those are the best tasting ones.
I was all about getting candy. I was a beast on Halloween.
Wow, David Cutcliffe, major claim right there that he owned Halloween. That's amazing. Coach, what was the candy you were after as a kid?
M&Ms, just plain M&Ms.
Just plain M&Ms?
Yeah.
No blue M&Ms?
No. No blue.
What about you guys? Candy, costumes?
I'm Hershey, Reese's.
Costume?
Nah, not much.
No, he was Reese's.
My favorite costume, I dressed up as William Wallace. The black version, of course. William Wallace, Braveheart. Okay. And, got to wear the kilt and everything. Oh. And you have to be authentic with that kilt.
Uh-oh.
No undergarments. Yeah.
I guess you didn't get any candy.
Oh, I got lots of candy. Yeah. This is a family show. Right?
Indeed. Indeed. Oh, I was hungry. All right, coming up next, it's State Farm College Football Today. You have been watching The Drive to Atlanta, presented by Mercedes-Benz.
One of the great rivalries in all of college football.
Georgia-Florida rivalry is pageantry, passion, electric atmosphere.
Coming out to that Florida-Georgia game, the atmosphere is unreal.
Red on one side and the blue on the other.
Everybody's just...
This is why you want to come to Florida and be a part of this game and play on the biggest of stages.
Holyfield, touchdown!
Florida's really confident. I think we're really confident.
Oh, my!
They're a fast, physical team. We're a fast, physical team.
The Gators got a safety!
SEC football is mano-a-mano.
Touchdown, touchdown, touchdown!
Prepared for a big battle down in Jacksonville. Can't wait to see them in Jacksonville. Go Gators.
His way all the way. Touchdown. You got to be ready for it, but how do you stop it? Fires. And there he goes. Touchdown. Well, this is how legends are made.
Hello again, everybody. I'm Adam Zucker, and welcome to State Farm College Football Today. Coming up next, a crucial top 10 SEC East showdown as number 9 Florida takes on number 7 Georgia in Jacksonville. Then in primetime, number 3 Notre Dame and Navy take their annual rivalry to San Diego. Over on CBS Sports Network, a triple header of college football action. Right now, it's Army Eastern Michigan, followed by Cincinnati and SMU, and capped when Boise State visits Air Force. As for the first game of our doubleheader, quite a turnaround for number 9 Florida under first-year head coach Dan Mullen. The Gators are the only current AP Top 25 team that finished at or below 500 in 2017. while Georgia's offense was flying high until LSU shackled the Dogs a couple weeks ago. Joining me once again, Brian Jones, Houston Nutt, and Auburn head coach Gus Malzahn. Coach, what's easier, being in here or being on the sidelines?
There's a lot less stress in here for me, I'll tell you that. I'm actually smiling today.
As was pointed out by Gary, it can get stressful if you want.
Okay. I'm sure from your seat it probably is.
All right. Now, as for Georgia, there is an elevated sense of urgency here, coming off the loss to LSU and carrying that with them into the off week, Houston.
Well, it is. You know, the meetings, coming off a loss, you have this bye week, you have time for the players. There's a little bit more sense of urgency. You want to get back to running the football, getting back to doing the things that you've been doing so well the first week, especially taking care of the ball.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah, there's no doubt. And, coming off a bye week, I mean, it's a lot easier to win, I'll tell you that, because you've dealt with the whole thing, for a week or so. But I agree with Coach. I think they're going to get back to running the football, and I think that'll be a big key.
Well, that's all I've been hearing is this sense of urgency on the Georgia Bulldogs side. What about the sense of urgency on the Florida Gators side? They had 19 returning starters that had to withstand that butt whipping a year ago there in Jacksonville. Remember 42-7, 292 rush yards, 4 rush TDs? Well, I think the Gators are going to be angry as well, and there's going to be a sense of urgency on their sideline.
All right, Gus, you ready for the eye test?
Yeah.
This is where urgency applies.
Ready.
Here we go. We're going to check out both teams warming up live now. It's our eye test, starting with the Gators, BJ.
That's right, Dan Mullen. You're talking about the start for this football team. He's the reason why. New sense of urgency and a new culture there. He's seen this movie before. 3-1 as offensive coordinator versus Georgia. Remember the first stint with Florida. And that quarterback, Coach Malzahn. Felipe Franks, 15 touchdowns. How do you see Coach Mullen employing him today?
Yeah, one thing I know about Dan in a big game, he likes to run his quarterbacks. We played him a couple years back, and they had a guy named Dak Prescott, and he ran it 20-plus times. And, I think we were number 2, and they're number 4, and they end up upsetting us.
And LaMichael Pirine, you see right here, this is a guy that got to get going along with Jordan Scarlett. You get that running game going, and you mentioned Felipe Franks. That will help his passing game if you get these two guys going.
And they've got a wide receiver in Freddie Swain who is really turning up currently. He's a big-time player, big-time threat down the field, but it all starts up front. 29 times Felipe Franks was sacked a season ago, only 8 through 7 ball games. Martez Ivey, he's going to be one of the keys up front. He knew there was just a different determination and focus with this football team when Dan Mullen and his coaches came in and took over.
But how about this defensive line, guys? We've been talking about the takeaways, and you look at this defensive line. They got 21 sacks in the season. They're so quick. They're athletic. They get to the football. They're playing together as a unit, and that's one of the reasons they have 18 takeaway, guys.
And one of the reasons that Jachai Polite, you just saw, leads them right there with 7 sacks. And Boshan Joseph at linebacker, he has been tremendous. We saw him have a heck of a game versus LSU a few weeks back. I mean, he shed 10 pounds, shed 10% of his body fat. He looks like you now, Adam Zucker.
Hey, now, don't give away my numbers. Remember, Kirby Smart, he played in this game, guys.
Yeah, he did. And you talk about that sense of urgency on that Bulldog sideline. They want to get back to who they really are. That true identity is about running the rock, being physical and tough.
Jake Fromm, guys, we've seen how he can execute. Didn't have that game at LSU. He's going to be, I think, much better today. 66% for his completion rating. Got to get the running game to help him.
And Gus, that stable of running backs, huh?
Yeah,
they replaced pretty well.
Yeah, there's no doubt. They replaced them very well. And their offensive line's very talented, too. They got most of those guys back. And so expect them to come out and run the football early.
Well, they can't abandon the pass either, though, because they've got some pretty good ones in that department, starting with this guy, Hardman. They're still lamenting missing him with that early shot down the field versus LSU a few weeks back. He can flat out burn you in the passing game. And also at tight end, Isaac Nada. He made no means about it. I don't like these guys.
Yeah.
And when he was asked about the Florida Gators and those big boys up front, Coach, whoo, you like to run behind them.
No question about it. You see how big they are. They're quick, agile. They got to just get back in sync. Last week was the last time they played had a bad taste in their mouth. They can't wait to come out here and play, and I'm excited to watch it.
And speaking of being in sync, that's what Mel Tucker, defensive coordinator, wants from his charges on the defensive side of the ball. The gap fits weren't quite there a week ago. And this guy right here, Tyler Clark, he can go a long way with helping those backers by owning those double teams up front. Natrez Patrick, he's got, you look at Georgia, their 2 leading tacklers are DBs. Anytime you're DBs or your leading tacklers, I think you got issues.
Issues indeed. And look, Felipe Franks, Gus talked about him running a little bit more today. Jake Fromm on the other side. You faced him twice last year. You'll face him in a few weeks. What gave you guys success against him in your regular season meeting?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Jake Fromm. I mean, he's a real quarterback, and you've got to disrupt him. The first time we played, we were able to rush just forward. We were able to disrupt him. The second time, he did a super job, picking up the blitzes and everything that goes with it.
Getting after him. All right. With more on this matchup between the Gators and Bulldogs, let's go to Jamie Erdahl for a tailgate report presented by Smile Direct Club.
There are so many factors at play in this game, just to name a few. 2 top 10 teams. One, Georgia was supposed to be there. Florida, not so much the story. This game almost always decides the SEC East. Georgia 2 weeks ago tripped over themselves at LSU, while Florida, they have the momentum. So the question becomes, how do the Bulldogs stop the Gators in their tracks? All right, Coach, coming off the game 2 weeks ago against LSU, what was the response from your guys? How'd you coach them through last week in preparation for this one?
We put that game behind us, looked at the things we didn't do well, and really tried to improve in a lot of areas. Our kids have been great. They are eager to get out here and play.
The world wants to know how you move forward from a quarterback standpoint in terms of making sure your offense is clicking between Jake Fromm and Justin Fields.
Well, the biggest thing is play the one that gives us the best chance to win. We feel like we have 2 really good quarterbacks who both practice well, so we'll see how today goes.
In terms of time, though, you call it as you see it, or will it be 50-50?
No, we'll do it how it comes out in the game. That's our decision. That's not for anybody to know, but just our team, and that's probably what matters most.
Coach, thank you.
Thank you.
As expected, Florida and Georgia fans have descended upon Jacksonville, but don't let the party fool you. These fans are game time ready. Throwing back to you guys in studio.
Ooh. Ooh. Add Jamie Erdahl to the quarterback controversy, huh? All right, let's check in on some other SEC action already underway, starting with 2 teams in search of their first conference win. Vanderbilt and Arkansas. Coach Nutt, what do you got?
Oh, here we go. We got Kyle Schumer right here. Excellent job with concentration by big tight end Jared Pinkney. Pinkney does a good job of breaking a tackle and finding the end zone.
They've connected a couple times, and Keyshawn Vaughn, remember he got hurt against Florida. They might have won that game.
Coming back, running very hard. Good job right there.
Maybe not. Maybe they wouldn't have. All right, under 4 minutes to go. Vandy, 38-24, up now on the road. Elsewhere later, number 12, Kentucky taking on Missouri, about under an hour. Wildcats trying to keep pace in the East with the winner of Florida, Georgia today. Number 16, Texas A&M, battling Mississippi State tonight in Starkville. The Aggies seeking a 4th straight win. And we're going to continue to get you ready for Week 9 of college football with a look at the other big games in our Saturday Spotlight. You are watching State Farm College Football today on CBS.
Yarder on the way. No good. Army, for the 2nd year, has
won it. Georgia wide receiver Terry Godwin came up with a career-long 75-yard touchdown catch in the Dogs' win over Vandy. The 5'11" senior from Hogansville, Georgia, had played with the idea of trading touchdowns for hitting home runs, as BJ found out in Behind the Face Mask.
You were drafted by the Braves?
Yes, sir.
Which round?
33rd.
Is that right? It doesn't matter which round. What position did you play?
Pretty much everything except for first.
Okay. And did you entertain signing with the Braves? He said, no, I want to do this football thing.
No, I mean, there was an opportunity that I could have took, and I was actually at the University of Georgia once. They called me and told me I had got drafted. And being 17, 18, I really didn't know what decision to make. So I was on the phone with my mom all night, and to be honest, I really never gave them a yes or no answer. So I don't know if she answered for me or what, but I'm still here, so I guess the answer was no.
I hope the kids are listening, because there's nothing wrong with being a well-rounded athlete. Play more than one sport, and then, in the end, you can find where your passion actually lies.
Talk to Kyler Murray about that, right?
Yes.
It's all going to work out. All right, let's go back to the scoreboard now. It's working out for a freshman at Clemson. My goodness. Trevor Lawrence coming off a career day, and BJ, this was that game you predicted would be an upset, I believe.
No, you must be referring to a different BJ. Lawrence right here is going to find Amari Rodgers again. The first time he found him, it was a 58-yard touchdown. This was for 68 yards. This would be the first time Florida State has lost 4 straight to Clemson, and the largest deficit also.
And it's the 2nd straight week that Lawrence sets career highs now. 314 yards, 4 touchdowns. He is already resting with this one just underway in the 4th quarter. Houston, Wisconsin missing Alex Hornibrook against Northwestern, and it showed.
My goodness.
Take care of the football.
See what happened, Coach, was what?
Gotta have some awareness right there. Take care of the ball in a crowd.
Set up a touchdown for Northwestern, and they're up by 14 at home. This is a team that was really struggling, barely beat Rutgers last week. They're looking at their 4th straight win, and they're up by 14 again with about 6 minutes to go in a battle to stay atop the Big Ten West, which is where we find Purdue after the takedown of Ohio State, but they ran into Sparty.
Yeah, a little back shoulder from Rocky Lombardi. He's subbing for the hurt Brian Lewerke. Finds Darryl Stewart there. Lombardi coming into this ball game. He'd been sacked more than he had pass attempts.
What a great name. Rocky Lombardi in sports. And Felton Davis also not playing for Sparty here, and they're up by 3 with about 6 minutes to go in that one. Oh, this one's been crazy, Houston. Iowa State, Texas Tech, back and forth.
Oh, unbelievable. Again, take care of the ball. Get pressure on the quarterback, fumble. Big-time score right there. Ooh. Now we're back tied up. Things are moving fast.
They are. Dakota Allen falling on it after Brock Purdy got stripped. So 4th quarter there as well. Virginia, BJ, thinking bowl eligibility today.
Well, why not? Bryce Perkins, they have a pretty good quarterback. He launches this one to Evan Butts. Perfect throw to corner of the end zone. Even better catch. Way to go. I like these helmets, too.
And Perkins really doing it all. Just about 3 minutes to go. They're up by 10. He's got 3 touchdowns in the air and 1 on the ground as well. Also from the ACC, it's a final. Louisville still winless in conference play, allowing 56 to Wake Forest. And Nebraska, after getting win number 1 last week against Minnesota, now has win number 2. And tonight in primetime on CBS, number 3 Notre Dame looks to make a statement against Navy on the last weekend before the release of the first playoff rankings on Tuesday. Brian Kelly's team appears to be positioned well, but so is Ohio State a week ago. Guys, you think Notre Dame ends up in those top 4 when it's all said and done?
As we sit here right now, I'm going to say yes. You know, Florida State, they look like they could play some defense until Clemson showed up today. Offensively, we know they've been challenged for a while, especially on that offensive line. USC, they're struggling. They're going to start a freshman quarterback in their game later today. So I think Notre Dame, if they go out and just take care of their business, they'll be just fine, and they'll be in the mix once this is all done and said and done.
I think when you look at the schedule, you tend to say that. Yeah. But as you know, anything can happen in football, and especially towards the end of the year. As bad as Florida State's playing today, they may be hitting on all cylinders that day. So, to me, a lot of football left.
There's a lot of one-loss teams out there. Some are in the top 10, some aren't. UCF, they're undefeated at number 10, watching this revolving door of one-loss teams. Coach, you think we're going to get to a point where we're going to have more than 4 in that playoff, and do you think there should be?
Yeah, me personally, I'd like to have 8. I think that would be great. And also, to the bowls. There's some very good bowls out there that, you know, aren't as significant once we went just to 4 games. I mean, the final 4. And so I really hope we go to 8, have a quarterfinals, semifinals, finals, just like an old high school would. And I think the fans across the country would like that.
I think anytime you win a championship of your league, you deserve to be there.
Yes.
You know, be a champion, you deserve to go.
UCF get in there, BJ?
Yes.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they? Right, Coach? They should be in there.
They can play. They play good football, and I think, you know, I think that's real important.
Yeah, make those quarterfinals home games, by the way, for the higher-seeded team. Can't make everybody travel all that way. All right, let's get to some picks now. No picks for Gus, smart man. He's going to comment on the SEC games.
Thank you.
He has friends in the coaching community. As we take a look at our Saturday spotlights presented by Chick-fil-A, starting with that primetime matchup on CBS. Number 3 Notre Dame battling Navy for the 92nd consecutive season. The Fighting Irish are well-rested for a playoff push and eyeing an 8-0 start for just the 12th time since 1950. And while Notre Dame has a commanding edge in this series, the midshipmen beat the Irish 2 years ago, and 4 of the last 5 have been decided by 10 points or fewer. Playoff spoiler alert in San Diego, BJ?
I'm going to say no for the fact that Notre Dame has seen this before. They're coming off a bye. They need to get back to running the rock. You look at the last 2 ball games, 80 yards, 167 yards. The previous 3 prior to those last 2, they were averaging well over 200 yards. Start running the ball again, and they'll win.
Notre Dame. They're going to outman them.
All right. Yep. Contrasting styles will be on display this afternoon when number 12 Kentucky visits Missouri. The Wildcats, led by the league's top rusher, Benny Snell, have the opportunity to run the table to an SEC title. They'll have Georgia in Lexington next week. Meanwhile, Drew Lock tossed 4 touchdown passes in Mizzou's 65-33 win over Memphis a week ago, but it's been different in conference play for him. Houston.
Drew Lock can throw the football. There's no question about it. 23 for 29 the last time he played. And you mentioned it, a little bit more competition, has a little harder time, but I love watching him throw. But to me, it's Kentucky. Kentucky's on a roll right now. Benny Snell, the running back, they're coming downhill with him. If Terry Wilson can give him a few plays down the field, he's athletic. And the defense, Josh Allen. Josh Allen can play.
Oh, yeah. How about the job Mark Stoops is doing, Coach?
Yeah, he's a super coach. And you look at what they're doing. I mean, they're able to run the football. They're playing great defense. And they're right in the middle of the East.
Indeed. Florida rooting for Missouri to beat Kentucky, give them that edge back. All right, let's go to a pivotal Pac-12 North Top 25 showdown. Number 14 Washington State visits number 24 Stanford as both sit half a game behind first place Washington. The Cougars are putting up just over 40 points per game and may be the class of the conference after beating Oregon for a third straight win. Wazoo's lone stumble, a 39-36 loss at USC. Meanwhile, the Cardinal back in the rankings after snapping a two-game skid with that much-needed win in Tempe. BJ, who you got?
Well, Stanford can't eat up enough ground in the running game to fill a flower pot. So that's their Achilles heel. They can't do what they're accustomed to doing, running the football. And you look at Washington State with the Gardner Minshew, he's leading the country in passing attempts, passing completions, 300-yard games, multiple touchdown games. He's doing it all. And they can run the ball. This James Williams was outstanding last week versus Oregon. The Cougs win.
Gardner Minshew from Mississippi.
Bryce Love's not the same. You know, he's hurt. You can tell he's hurt because we know how physical they are. But Washington State's defense, give them some credit. They're playing very good.
Fewest returning starters in the whole conference. All right, back to the SEC for a West Division matchup between number 16 A&M and Mississippi State tonight in Starkville. After an off week, the Aggies are fresh, riding a three-game winning streak and boasting the top run defense in the conference. Watch out, Gus. Yeah. Meanwhile, the Bulldogs have the top rushing offense in the SEC, but have mustered a mere 39 points in 4 conference games. Coach, what's up?
At Starkville, anytime you go to Starkville, you better be ready to go. Bring 2 chin straps and buckle them up because their defense, Mississippi State's very physical. They can play. Nick Fitzgerald, when he's running the football with the power read zones and all those things, he can make it happen. But Texas A&M, Texas A&M is rolling right now. I think their defense is strong.
I'm with you.
You're with them?
Yep.
And you're watching this one from a nearby steakhouse?
I'm going to be watching this real close. Every play.
Scouting it out for next week.
Yeah.
All right, as for our game today, Georgia and Florida have met annually in Jacksonville since 1933. The only exception was the 2-year stretch in 94 and 95 when the Gator Bowl was renovated to become home to the NFL's Jacksonville Jaguars. Once again, the Gator and Bulldog RB nations have traveled to Jacksonville to celebrate and enjoy one of the oldest and bitterest rivalries in the SEC. State Farm College Football Today is sponsored by Sonic. This is how you Sonic. Napa. Quality parts. Helpful people. That's Napa know-how. And by State Farm. Here to help life go right. Welcome back to State Farm College Football Today. The Florida defense is tied for 6th nationally with 18 takeaways. The Gators have scored 50 points off turnovers, already surpassing their totals of 17 takeaways and 44 such points from last season. Do you want your sports news and highlights straight without the noise? Stream CBS Sports HQ, the all-new 24/7 sports news network, available on your phone, computer, and connected TV devices. CBS Sports HQ, sports for true fans. And now, since we have dissected just about every angle of today's matchup between the Gators and Bulldogs, here's a unique look at one of the most animated rivalries in all of college football.
Here we go. Dan Mullen versus Kirby Smart. Get ready, because we're about to address the blind squirrel in the room at the world's largest rivalry. That's right. A rivalry so good the schools can't even agree on when it started. But know this, since 1933, they've played almost all their games in Jacksonville, Florida. And since then, Georgia leads the series by just 1 game. 1 game. So today, you can say everything is on the Florida-Georgia line. Oh, yeah, around here, you better get your shine on, because this is how we roll. Okay, so I'm a big fan, and I'm also a big fan of winners. And with a win, you might just cruise your way to representing the SEC East in Atlanta. That's right. Since 1992, the winner of the Florida-Georgia game has gone on to the SEC title game 15 of the last 26 years. So getting that okey-pokey is no jokey. Because from celebrations that make you scream and shout to coaches who use all their timeouts, from Steve Spurrier to Run Lindsey Run, this rivalry is real and will never be done. Gators, Bulldogs, who you got?
Yeah, they're going to get it going in just a few minutes. You guys are all familiar with rivalries. Coach Malzahn, you face your two biggest rivals in the course of 3 weeks.
Yeah, coming up both on the road.
Oh, yeah, Georgia and Alabama. Would you want to change that if you could?
Tell you what, in 2010, we won the national championship. We had one on the road, all right, one at home, so I'd like to get back to that.
Sometimes you get them both at home. BJ, you have, what,
quite a few.
five
UCLA,
rivals?
we had USC. Then when I transferred to Texas, we had Oklahoma, we had Texas A&M, and we had Arkansas.
Arkansas,
we didn't
Texas.
like Texas.
Yeah.
Growing up, Arkansas, Texas, then we made, as a coach, made the transition. The SEC had to manufacture some rivals, Ole Miss, LSU. But I know this, when I got to Ole Miss as the head coach, I knew who the rival was, because after a Cotton Bowl win, they knew one thing to say: beat Mississippi State, please.
Yeah. Silence those cowbells. All right, let's check the scoreboard one more time before we get things going in Jacksonville. It is a final. Vanderbilt, the winner now, getting their first conference win of the year. Keyshawn Vaughn, a big game. Clemson all over Florida State right now, 59-3. It'll be the first time they win 4 straight in that rivalry. All right, the Big Ten West getting interesting. Northwestern is up on top after beating Wisconsin 31-17. Another big game from Clayton Thorson. And how much company are they going to have there? Because it's 2:44 to go. Purdue trying to keep pace with Northwestern is the situation now. Sparty's got that 3-point lead after the Boilermakers came in looking so good. This one's been back and forth, 31 all, about midway through the fourth quarter between Texas Tech and Iowa State. Time now for the last word as we get closer to kickoff between the Gators and Bulldogs. Some final thoughts, guys. Coach Malzahn, you can't wait to watch two teams trying to dominate the running game, right?
Yeah, and I think it's real simple. Whoever has the most rushing yards in the end of the day will win the game.
I also think there has to be the quarterback's going to have to make a play down the field in which defense stops the run.
All I know is I haven't put on pads in 20-some years, but it's a hard-hitting, snot bubble affair like this one that makes me want to put them on. This is going to be fun. Buckle it up, Coach.
You can close your eyes and hear this one.
I want to hit something right now.
Don't hit me.
I ain't going to hit you, Coach. Come on.
BJ's got the Gators.
I got the Gators.
Houston's got the Dogs.
I got the Dogs.
A reminder that Cincinnati and SMU is coming up over on CBS Sports Network. But game time for number 9 Florida and number 7 Georgia is right after this message and a word from your local station. You have been watching State Farm College Football Today on CBS.